What is truth? It's a difficult question to answer. And what our Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, and Swami Kriyananda say is that truth cannot be defined in words. It must be perceived in the heart. And as much as the intellect will try to define things and name them and perhaps even separate into categories, but these are superficial intellectual categories, usually on the material plane. There's so many facts that we can find out about what's happening on the material plane. But is that truth? And is that the truth of the soul? And when we come to a place like this, we are looking for more inspiration of the heart and truth of the soul. So I'll start with a quote by Krishna from the Gita. He says in chapter 18, "Hear now my supreme word, the most secret and sacred of all. Because you are dearly beloved by me, I offer it now for your highest benefit. Absorb yourself in me, be wholly devoted to me, worship and bow to me alone, so shall you undoubtedly reach me. This I promise you faithfully, for you are dear to me." And then he goes on to say, "Never share these truths with one who is without self-control or devotion, or who will not share with others in a spirit of service, nor give them to one who is indifferent to them, or who finds fault with me." So I think what Krishna is saying here is sort of the opposite of what Arjuna is. So Arjuna has learned self-control. And therefore, since he can control his senses, he can sit still and perceive these high teachings that Krishna is bestowing upon him. His mind is not restless and floating everywhere. He can concentrate, and he can, with deep concentration, receive and absorb these high truths that Krishna is telling him. So it is a lesson for all of us that are here. Is like, what do we need to do to prepare ourselves to receive high teachings? We need to control the senses. We need to be able to open our hearts. If we can't control our senses and we can't sit still, then how can we receive what our Guru, what Lord, what Divine Mother is trying to share with us, that guidance, that grace? How can we receive it? So that's what the path, the spiritual path is. So much of it is the yogic teachings of learning how to sit still. Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. And also just the teachings of Kriya Yoga, the science of meditation, teaches us how to be still and to close off the sense telephones. And when we think of the flows of energy, if our energy is always leaking out of us like a milk pail filled with holes, how can we, even if we were to hear these truths, retain them? It'll just leak right out. And just like our energy, the energy that comes into us and flows through us, if we have not learned how to reverse the flow of that energy and be able to keep it within our own center and circulate it as we learn how to do in these classes, it's just like, then if we can calm our heart and stop our heart from being so dragged out in desires and attachments and likes and dislikes and our fears, with that calm feeling of the heart, is the only way we can perceive God's truth. And our soul's intuition is the power to perceive directly these divine truths. But intuition can only happen with a calm heart. So calming our heart, which is the goal also of all of our teachings, calming our heart, stilling our minds, opening ourselves to receive these teachings. And, you know, when Swami Kriyananda would have satsangs at Ananda village, there might be people sitting at his feet listening to him. Some people were just fidgeting, you know, just so restless that they were fidgeting. They couldn't hear what he was saying. Even if they heard the words, they definitely couldn't hear the truth of what he was saying. Or they were completely bored, you know, just saying, you know, what is this? Or they were in bliss, you know. And the same thing at Mount Washington. Swami Kriyananda would say that even when Yogananda was there and he was teaching the students and or disciples, you know, he said it was a revolving door. People would come, they would go. People would come, they would go. They did not have the capacity to receive. You know, our ability to receive, we have to increase the capacity. That's also what the spiritual teachings are all about. And Jesus Christ used to teach only in parables. He would use earthly stories about sheep and farming and prodigal sons that go wandering off and squandering their inheritance, but then they come back and their father is welcoming them back with open arms, with forgiveness, with deep love. And Jesus used to say, those who have ears to hear, let them hear. It was almost a way of saying, hey, listen, I'm about to tell you something important. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. And he would speak in parables. His disciples even asked him one time, why are you speaking in parables all the time? And he just said, you know, these truths are not for everybody. I mean, he had mobs around him all the time because he was producing all these miracles. So, but people were not ready to perceive the truth. And the teaching is you don't, just as Krishna just said, don't give teachings to people who cannot understand them, cannot receive them, might reject them. And, you know, it's just not even good practice to share. So if he told these stories, those who had the higher awareness could receive the higher truths of that God will always forgive you. You can do no wrong in God's eyes. He will always forgive you. You are always his beloved son. It's we ourselves that need to change what it is we are desiring. We need to have that longing for God. This is also what Krishna says. We need to have devotion to be able to receive these truths. We have to want to hear them. We have to want to know the truth. Otherwise, they're just going to go right through us. And you all know the story of, in the autobiography, the truths that are in the autobiography, we can read it once through and we may have a certain level of understanding of the truths that Yogananda Ji is giving us. I mean, almost every page is filled with truth. I mean, every sentence, every page. And so we read it the first time through, we can receive a certain amount of truth there. But if you go back and read it a few years later, it's like, wow, this wasn't there before. I never saw this. And then again and again. And each time, if our soul has been evolving, we will perceive higher and higher truths just from simple sentences that we've read again and again. And what are some of those truths that are in the autobiography of a yogi? Thoughts are universal, not individually rooted. You know, whatever we are attuning our consciousness to, that's the level of the truth we will be receiving. If we're constantly absorbed in the material world, that is the information we're going to constantly get bombarded with. But if we can practice the teachings, control our energy, uplift it, and open our consciousness, we can perceive, you know, these higher levels of vibration that are coming to us all the time, and tune our radio to the consciousness of the great masters, of Divine Mother, of Om, and receive it. And also, of course, from joy I came, for joy I live, in sacred joy I melt, Satchidananda. This is a universal truth that we may have heard since we were young, but as our soul evolves, we start to understand what that really means. What did I come from? What am I a part of? And for joy I live. Am I living every day in joy? Am I seeking bliss in every moment? Or is my mind going down into fear, desire, judgment, these things that are very easy in the day-to-day world of office or family or driving in traffic? But it's our job as the disciple, not just to practice these teachings in the temple here or only when we're sitting in meditation, but every moment of the day. This is the battle, of course, of Kurukshetra, the true battle. And then, of course, in the autobiography, it starts with the sentence about the guru-disciple relationship. You have to behave like a disciple to be able to attract a true guru. And it talks about, Lahiri Mahashaya's discipleship to Babaji, and how Babaji has watched over Lahiri through life and death. And then until he became 33 years old, and finally Babaji drew him to Babaji's cave and gave him Diksha again. And so talks about reincarnation. Our relationship with the Guru is eternal. Talks about, if you're going to talk about reincarnation, you have to talk about karma. Remember the chapter on the boomerang karma of Trilanga Swami? Somebody tried to poison him, and he turned around and had that man's throat also burning, just what that man was trying to do to Trilanga Swami, and then of course he healed the man. But this law of karma, we know it. We've been hearing about it since we were babies. But how much do we really perceive it in every moment of our life and be able to act according to that karma, to that law of karma? It's infallible. The story of Valmiki, you all must also know. But before he became a great saint, he was a robber, murderer, and he was in the forest robbing people so that he could feed his family. And then one day Narada goes through the forest, and previous years, Valmiki goes to rob him, and Narada says, "How can you be doing this? You are accruing so much sin by your actions. Why would you be doing this? Such an evil thing. You're going to attract such bad karma." And he says, "No, it's my dharma. I have to feed my family." And he says, "Well, do you think your family is going to share in this bad karma that you're accruing?" And he said, "I never thought of that." So he tied him to the tree, ran to his family and said, "You are going to share in this bad karma that I'm receiving from robbing all these people, aren't you?" They said, "No. It's your job to feed our family, and whatever you do, however you do it, we're no part of it." So he starts to understand that karma accrues to us personally. What somebody else does is not accruing to us, it's accruing to them. And every thought, word, action accrues to us, positive or negative. So Valmiki understood the weight of his evil deeds and prayed to Narada, "Please show me how I may redeem myself and save myself." So he, as you know, he had him repeat the name of Rama, which he could not do, so he repeated the name of Mara, and eventually it became Rama. And then blessed Valmiki ended up writing the Ramayana. I know you all know these stories. But that topic of karma is an important one for our day-to-day lives, because most of us are horrified by what we read in the news, by what we're seeing on social media, and we just draw back in fear and anguish, like, how can such things be so? God and Divine Mother are not trying to make this world perfect. It is not their job to make this world perfect. Their job is to help us as souls try to get out of it, or to transcend the ability to suffer no matter what is going on around us. They want us to perceive the highest truth, that the material plane is duality. There will always be light and dark, happiness and suffering, good and evil. So if we get caught up by looking at the evil all the time, if we're just absorbing ourselves in news and social media, it will have the capacity to drag us down. So according to this law of karma, we were born in this generation, in this age, so that we can understand the higher reality of what's happening and try to transcend the delusion of Maya, which is trying to suck everybody down. And if we're in this room, we're the ones that have to pull people up. If they're suffering in the ocean and they're drowning, if we just jump into the ocean to save them, we'll probably drown too. We need to send a lifeboat. We need to send them a raft, and we can be that raft. But how can we be that raft if we ourselves are not basking in divine truth? What is the truth of this world? What is light? Am I focusing on light and goodness and Divine Mother's love, which is everywhere, even in the worst of circumstances? Because these souls had the karma also to be caught up in this mass karma or to be caught up in these terrible things. We can't see beyond our nose. We can't see last lives of anybody, our own or anybody else's. But we know the truth that Divine Mother's law is infallible. So we can have sympathy for others, and we can pray for them, and we can send light to every situation. But if we allow our heart to be dragged down, then we are not putting enough energy into our path. We are into knowing the truth, the divine truths that are around us all the time, the teachings. We're not practicing sincerely enough the teachings that we've been given and following what they told us we needed to do to lift our consciousness and to help others. Because the next thing Krishna says is, most blessed to me are those who are sharing these teachings and helping to lift others. So if we're sitting here, we should be doing that. And so maybe we need to take to journaling or really getting into our introspection on how much am I letting outside material plane situations drag me down and throw me off my center. So Krishna gave these amazingly high truths to Arjuna on the eve of battle. Arjuna was receptive enough to be able to receive these teachings and use them in the battle. So this is what the Guru is doing to us, giving us these teachings all the time for our own battle. And every day is a battle. Every minute is a battle. But that grace is always flowing through us. So we just need to increase our receptivity to receive it. And then with their truth, they can awaken us again and again and again. Because we fall asleep very easily. So they wake us up again and again. And then we have the power to become like them and help uplift others also. Blessings to you.
I was talking about truth, and perhaps the next question we may be asking ourselves is, where is this truth? Where is God after all? And Yogananda Ji gives us the answer in his Whispers from Eternity. O Father, when I was blind, I found not a door which led to you, but now that you have opened my eyes, I find doors everywhere. Through the hearts of flowers, through the voice of friendship, through sweet memories of all lovely experiences, every gust of my prayer opens a new door in the vast temple of your presence. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says, I, the unmanifested, pervade the entire universe. Behold my divine mystery. All beings seem not to exist in me, nor I in them. Yet I am their sole creator and preserver. Think of it this way, as air moves through space, but is not space, so do all creatures have their being in me, but they are not me. Likewise in the Bible it says, the wind blows where it will. You hear the sound of it, but you don't know where it comes from or where it's going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. When I was 21 and went to Ananda village, I was so attracted. I knew I wanted to live there. And visually, there was nothing to look at. It was bare land and a few people living very primitively. But in my heart, I felt that these people had something that I wanted. And so we don't see God with the physical eyes. We feel Him with the heart. And a friend who came here said, during satsang, I closed my eyes and I just felt this sense of joy. But what surprised me was later at Prasad, I felt that same sense of joy, because many spiritual people come together for a spiritual purpose and create that joy together. In a couple of weeks, a number of us are going on pilgrimage to Ladakh. And Swami Kriyananda was asked once, how can we get the most out of pilgrimage? And he said, the best way is with the eyes closed. Don't go looking here and there, looking for a new experience or beautiful scenery. Close your eyes and meditate. Attune deeply within. When you feel a vibration behind each experience, then you'll reach the source of inspiration, and you'll know how to get to that source whenever you want. Yesterday, my sister wrote me from a hospital, and she said that, since I've come in the hospital, I just feel all of these emotions. I feel this anger, and I never felt that at home. It's like in the air. Everybody around her, the other patients, were feeling fear, pain, anger. She was sensitive and picked up on that vibration. And Yoganandaji tells us that thoughts and vibrations are not individually rooted as much as universally rooted. We choose to tune in to one vibration or another. One evening, Swami Kriyananda had a radio interview, and the studio was located inside a nightclub. And in order to get there, he had to walk down this long street that was lined with bars and nightclubs. And he said it was like he was feeling psychic tentacles trying to pull him into each club that he walked by. And he started to chant to himself, Shri Ram, Jai Ram. And he just continued that for the whole walk. He said by the time he reached the interview, he felt more bliss than he had felt at home, because he chose to attune to that vibration, his energetic, positive approach canceled out for him the negativity. Anger and emotion usually keep us focused also on ourselves. And instead, focus on, when we're in such a situation, focus on giving to others. If you happen to find yourself in a hospital, pray for the other patients. You know, give the nurses energy, a smile. And we visited Swami Kriyananda in the hospital once, and he couldn't leave his bed, but he had been given a number of bouquets of flowers. And he asked us to take the flowers and take them to other patients in the ward, and to sit and talk with each of those patients who wanted to talk. It's like he could have chosen to focus on pain, but he focused on giving to others. In 1803, the U.S. Bought millions of acres of land from France, and it doubled the size of the country. And it was the job of two men called Lewis and Clark to survey some of that land, to explore it. And for 2 years, they traveled up and down rivers because there were no maps or roads. And they suffered every kind of hardship, getting lost, hunger. Finally, after 2 years, they found in front of them the vast expanse of the glistening Pacific Ocean. And Lewis said, he exclaimed, "Oh, what joy!" And it's joy that awaits us if, when challenges and trials come, if we, like Lewis and Clark, persevere with cheerfulness, with willingness, and serving others, then that joy can be ours. As Yogananda Ji said, called it a joy beyond imagination of expectancy. When we see behind everything, we see God's hand. As Yogananda Ji wrote, "O God beautiful, in the forest thou art green, to the serviceful thou art service, to the lover thou art love, to the yogi thou art bliss." Thank you.